So, like for people who miss, so they can get the opportunity to watch again. All right, so let's get started. All right, so if you haven't, if you this is the third episode in the series. We are basically going through the design thinking process. Today we are doing the defining the problem. We're talking about defining the problem. So we previously talked about the entire design thinking process. Last week we talked about empathizing, and today we'll be talking about defining. So defining is the second stage in the design thinking process. The first episode we didn't record that because that is quite generic. The second episode that is on empathizing is on YouTube, and so we'll share the link to the YouTube so you can access the video, and then you can watch it. It's a little lengthy, but it's because at the end there were like questions and answers, and so I think it ends around like 40 minutes. So once you watch the first 40, you'll be good on grasping what we have talked about in the past. So today we're talking about the second stage of the design thinking process, that is defining. So let's get into it so we don't waste any time. All right, so the second phase of the design thinking process, that is the define stage. What a define stage enables you to do is it helps you establish a clear idea of exactly what problem you are trying to solve for what problem you're trying to solve for the users. And so this stage will help you shape your problem statements, which will act as a compass to solving which will act as a compass to throughout the design process, basically. So it's like your moral compass, like something that is directing you, like this is your end goal, this is the problem you're trying to solve. And so we'll talk about we'll talk about the entire process of defining a problem and then how to get your problem statement. All right, so head into it. Why is the define stage a necessary? Why is it necessary? Like why is it important to actually define your problem? Because somebody could argue that if I have a problem, I could just solve it without probably understanding it. But if you've actually solved any problem into detail, you realize you need to define the problem. You need to understand the problem. Once you understand the problem, the solution becomes quite easy to identify. And so the define stage, it ensures a full understanding of the project's goals, the goal of the design project. So it helps you to articulate your design problem and provides a clear-cut objective to what you're working towards. So I don't know whether you guys have experienced this before, but you're trying to solve a problem, right? And then you start solving the problem, and then you get to a point where you're like, yo, what exactly am I solving again? Like, I don't know, has it happened to anybody? If it has happened to you, like, you can mute yourself and then like give us a little like experience on like how that was like you're trying to solve a problem, then you're in the process of solving the problem, you realize, yo, what exactly am I even doing? Has anybody experienced that? Hello? Oh, okay. All right, so even if nobody has experienced that, I don't know whether I'm the only person who has, but yeah, it's something that actually happens where like you're trying to solve a problem, you start the problem, and then because you haven't researched the problem well enough, you realize you're solving the problem, you get to a point and like, with this problem, with what I'm solving, would it even like, is there even a problem? Like sometimes it happens, like, is there even a problem to what you're trying to solve? Then what the define stage helps you do is to help you have a clear-cut goal as to the problem you're trying to solve. Like define the problem, like understand, fully flesh out the problem, and that way when you have that, everybody in the design team sees the target as, okay, this is the problem you're trying to solve. And so it makes it easy for the entire team to basically know the end of the project, because sometimes you're working on a certain project and you don't even know where the end is because the problem statement is not clearly defined. And so what defining the problem statement will do is It will help you identify a actionable problem statement, which will steer you in the direction of helping you to kickstart the ideation process and work your way towards a solution. So once you have the problem statement, once you have identified the problem and then figured out that this is the problem statement, then you can start to think about the process. That's the ideation. You can start to think about the process. You can start to think about the problem and how best you'd be able to solve that problem. So without a well-defined problem statement, it's hard to know what you are aiming for. Your work will lack focus and the final design would suffer. Not only that, but in the absence of a clear problem statement, it's extremely difficult to explain to stakeholders and team members exactly what you're trying to achieve. So this basically talks about the things I was talking about, where the team members do not see the full vision of the problem you're trying to solve. And then without the problem statement, there's lack of focus, because you can be solving the problem and then something just would distract you or something, like maybe a change, like maybe the cryptocurrency fluctuated right recently, just this past week. A change in, like, maybe that can distract you, and then like you lose focus on what you're trying to solve. And so having a problem statement, clearly defining your goal would give you the direction. That's it's serving as a compass to solving your problem. It's basically like it's your moral compass in design. Basically, it's like your compass is like it's pointing you in the direction. And so what the defined stage basically is, before we continue, I want you to understand something called the analysis and synthesis. So analysis and synthesis. So in the empathizing phase, we use analysis to break down everything we observe and discover about our users into smaller, more manageable components, dividing their actions and behaviors into what, why, and how categories. So what this explains basically is analysis. Like in the previous episode, which you can find on YouTube, we talk about analysis, where you empathize with the user. That's analyzing the user's pain points, analyzing the users their problems, the problems they are experiencing, like understanding the user. Basically, that's analysis. Then you'd synthesize. So synthesizing is basically defining the components, defining the stage, like finding the detail to paint the overall picture of what you found in the analysis. So it's like science. You make analysis, and then once you make the analysis, you make sense of the data you've collected from analysis. That's it basically. So over here, this goes to explain it into further detail. So analysis, the breaking down complex concepts and problems into smaller, easier to understand constituents. We do that, for instance, during the first stage of the design process, at the empathize stage, when we observe and document details that relate to our user. So analysis basically has to do with the users, and then synthesis, on the other hand, is piecing together the puzzle from the whole idea. So basically, doing your magic in the lab, basically to figure out, to make sense of the data collected from the analysis stage. So once you've made sense of the data collected from the analysis stage, that's empathizing. That is what's basically the defined stage is the synthesizing stage. So empathizing stage is basically the analysis stage. Then the defined stage is the synthesis, making sense of the data. All right. So now we'll talk about problem statement, because we've mentioned it in the past. So a problem statement identifies the gap between the current problem, that is the problem, the current state, that's the problem, and the desired state, that's the end goal of the process, basically. The end goal of the process, the product you're trying to build. So a problem statement is basically a statement that gives a clear cut of the that basically talks about the current problem and then the end goal. Basically, like what the problem is and what the future looks like, what the solution looks like. That is what a problem statement is. So a problem statement, it guides you and your team and provides a focus on the specific needs that you have uncovered. it creates a sense of possibility and optimism that allows team members to spark off ideas in the ideation stage. So again, like I was mentioning in the past, the problem statement serves as the fallback. Like, it's a statement that everybody on the team falls back on. It's like I'm lost of words as to how to describe it, but again, it's like the north star. Like, once you solve the problem in the problem statement, the problem identified in the problem statement, you have solved the problem. Then you can move on to another problem statement. That being said, a problem might have different problem statements because certain products have multiple functionalities, and so a product might have different problem statements, but there would be a leading problem statement because every product has an MVP. That's the minimum viable product. So you'd want to find so that as the main problem statement will be a problem statement that justifies the entire process, and then yeah, almost ready. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. My room got very warm. I had to turn on the fan. All right. So yeah. So that is what a problem statement is basically. So we'll talk about how to craft proper problem statements into detail, and then mind you, I've left links to the links to the articles that you can read on to expand on the knowledge provided from here. All right. So what makes a good problem statement? So a problem statement, for starter, it needs to be human-centered. So what is meant by a problem statement being human-centered is basically like there needs to be personification of the problem. Like, there should be a human element in the problem. Like, it should be like a human-centered basically means like it should be surrounded by a human feeling. Like, it should be human. So we'll talk about it. You would understand that eventually. So a problem statement should be broad enough for creative freedom. It's being broad enough for creative freedom means it shouldn't be so specific. So you are trying to solve the problem. If you allow the and then another thing you might have noticed is when you're trying to solve a problem. Again, I like to use the Netflix example. So a problem statement being broad enough. If Netflix identified the problem as people not wanting to go to movie houses to rent disc, and so they identified their problem as renting disc online or something. That would, if they didn't broaden their horizon to explore other alternatives, and the best alternative would have been to create a platform where you can order movies online. But Netflix thought it wise to broaden their horizon. By broadening their horizon, they were able to identify that the best option for creating a platform would be to have a subscription service where movies, once you pay for it, you have access to the entire catalog of movies. If Netflix hadn't broadened their horizon, then they would have we would most likely still be renting movies now, and then we wouldn't be on the subscription service. The same thing applies to Spotify, where when iTunes came out, iTunes didn't broaden their horizon. Like, when iTunes came out in the beginning, iTunes didn't broaden their horizon large enough, which caused them to create a platform where you actually bought music and then you own the music forever. But then iTunes realized, no, if you flip it and then you have a subscription instead, you have access to everything, and then you pay a fixed rate monthly, and then you have access to everything. It's a better alternative. So that is Netflix and then iTunes broadening their horizon, because prior to subscription services, if you wanted to listen to music, you had to buy that particular music. But now that is not the case. It's because of broadened horizon, broadened their problem statements being broad enough to allow for creative freedom. So once they allowed for creative freedom, they were able to get in different ideas that instead of sales, they made subscriptions. I don't know whether that makes sense. If you have any difficulty understanding that, you can draw my attention to it. Are we good to go? Hello? All right, sure thing. So we talked about having a broad enough net to allow for creative freedom. Now, being narrow enough to make it manageable. So what this means is, if you go broad, there should be a limit to how broad you can go. So if Netflix went broad and then they realized, okay, subscription service, and then they didn't narrow it down to movies and TV series. What if if they didn't narrow it down? What if Netflix started selling music? It most likely wouldn't be how you call it. It wouldn't be the best option, because then there is so much architecture that would go into making Netflix a music streaming platform as well. And so when you talk about being broad, you need to be narrow as well, so to make it manageable. Because imagine Netflix adding the entirety of of a platform like Spotify to Netflix, how huge it will be to manage. And then even if you look into it, Google has multiple products, but what you do not realize is there are teams within the company that work on each product. So Google Maps has an entire department where there are product designers, there are programmers, everything involved in Google Maps. So there's like Google as a mother company, there are individual teams within the company that work on individual things. And so you might see Google as a very broad company, but they being broad, even though they are broad, they are narrow within the company. So they are narrow within the spheres of the company, where there's Google Maps, there's the YouTube team, and then there's like individual teams that work on individual products within the company. So that is making it narrow so it can be manageable. All right, so the problem statement formula. So this problem statement formula is based on is the same product statements formula that is used in the Google UX design. So I realized this is one of the easiest way to actually write a problem statement, and then this is what I used to write my problem statement. So it's being user centered. That means you this is how you personalize the problem statement. So over here you be like username, right? So the username. So this is I use an example over here. So okay, so let's talk about this first. So the username. So assuming let's see, Asta is and then you give the user characteristics. So something that's distinct about that particular type of user. Again, if you're designing a product, you need to identify the typical type of person that would be using your product. That's the empathize. You need to understand the user. So Asta is if it's a business application, it's a business woman or something relating to that, who needs the user's needs because of a particular reason. So I gave a little example over here. So Kofi is a small business owner who needs a system to track and remind clients of impending debt payment deadlines, because clients sometimes forget to make payments on time. This is if you do not already know this, this design sessions would continue until we have a problem that we are trying to solve. And so I use the problem we are trying to solve, I use that to create a problem statement. And so this is the problem statement we'll be using for the problem we are trying to solve, basically. So we'll design a mobile application that works for this purpose. And so once you read this document, if you are to join the team, so say you join a team today and then you read this sentence: Kofi is a small business owner who needs a system to track and remind clients of impending debt payments deadlines, because clients sometimes forget to make payments on time. It becomes almost impossible to understand what we are trying to build, because the problem statement is concise, and then it points you in the direction. This is what we are trying to do. If anybody does not understand this statement over here, please draw my attention to it so we understand that the concept of problem statements is wrong. So if you do not understand this problem statement over here, Kofi is a small business owner who needs a system to track and remind clients of impending debt payment deadlines because clients sometimes forget to make payments on time. Is there anybody on the call who does not understand that statement or cannot articulate where the product, if a product is to be designed for this, cannot articulate where the direction in which this product will be heading? This is just a test to make sure that problem statements serve the function they're supposed to serve. Yes, please go on. Last week was empathizing. We didn't talk about the ideation last week. Yes. So basically, what we're trying to do is we are trying to prepare everybody for the design process. So we would how you call it? We would how was it? We would use what we are learning to work on what we need to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So now we are talking about problem statements, and then we have developed the problem statements now, where we, based on the user problem I showed last week. So if there needs to, I guess I could show the user problem again. This is the problem we identified. No, yeah. So this is the problem. The problem was generated by a member of the design community. That was like managing multiple clients as part of running a business as a business owner. However, sometimes clients do not pay on time. How do we help business owners keep track of payments from their clients and make sure that they receive the payments from clients promptly for every project or business? Now, from the problem statement that we have identified, does it not capture everything that was mentioned over there and then personalized it? So it has, first of all, it has made it human by talking about the particular user. That's what makes a good product statement. It has made it it human centric, where it's talking about Kofi and his business. Then it is broad enough. So it's being broad is it's a system to track and remind clients of impending debt deadlines. That is his problem. That is the need that the user has. So we talk about a system to keep track and remind clients of the impending deadlines. It's broad, but it's streamlined again, because now it's being broad is we can use different we can explore, or we can ideate on different solutions that can work for this problem statement. It's broad. We can get different solutions that would work for it, but it is streamlined as well, so we know exactly what we need to do, but it is broad in the possible solutions that we can deliver. And so this problem statement actually serves the purpose of what problem statements are supposed to be, as being statements that give direction or serve as the northern star to the problem you're trying to solve. Are there any other questions, please, before we proceed? Alright, so I guess silence means we can proceed. Alright, so now we're talking about how to write a meaningful problem statement. So writing a meaningful problem statement can be extremely challenging. The reason why it can be hard is, how do you condense all the complexities of a user's conscious and unconscious desires into one simple actionable statement? Fortunately, there are some procedures that we can learn that actually help us to actually write a problem statement. So we can procedures to actually help us write something as concise as this. All right, so going on, there's a procedure called the space, saturate, and group method. It's also called the clustering and bundling ideas and facts. So this process is basically where you visually present all the observations you've made in the empathize phase into one space. So usually people like to stick these things on walls. I'm sure this type of images, you've seen multiple of them. Funny enough, I've never used this procedure before. I always do everything on the computer or on a piece of paper. And so you empathize, and then you visually present all the information you've collected. That's the analysis you've made from empathizing, right? So you see everything we talked about in the past is actually coming to play here, where you empathize on the observations made from the empathize phase, and then you as the name suggests, you saturate them on the wall. So you paste all of them on the wall, and then with a post-it notes and images, resulting in a collage of artifacts from your user research. So this is basically like you gather all the user research you've made, and then you stick them on the wall. So if there are images, whatever collections you've made, you stick them on the wall, and then now you try to make the connections between them. So you take so you see the person is actually using a pen marker to mark out lines and make connections between what actually works together. You take, if it's a sticky note, you can take some of the things that are closely related and then group them together to make sense of the data. That's basically space and saturate. So you gotta put everything that you've collected from the user research, you put them in the same space, and then you saturate them. So based on things, saturate and group. So things that are closely related, you put them together, and things that are not, you separate them from. So you're basically grouping the ideas to make sense and of the data that you've collected. That's you're synthesizing the data you collected from the empathize stage. All right. So that is one procedure of doing that, and the other one is the 5 W's. Sometimes it's 4. Actually, it's 4. The reason why I wrote 5 is because the same process is used elsewhere. There's one where they add when, but in this situation we are using 5 W's. I was supposed to correct this to 4. And so asking the right questions, that's who, what, where, and why. So if we go back to the problem statement, let's talk about this in the interim, and then we'd see how this works with what's the problem statement that we presented like 2 screens down. So this one talks about who is experiencing the problem. So from here, right, who is experiencing the problem? Can someone answer from the call? Like anybody, just unmute yourself, answer. Who is experiencing the problem? So we're just testing out how the 4 W's would actually solve the problem. So who is experiencing the problem from the problem statements shown over here? All right, fantastic. Yeah. So now that we have, okay, what is the problem? So based on the observations you made during the empathize phase, what's the problem and pain point that frequently came up? What task is the user trying to accomplish, and what stands in their way? So from the problem statement, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? Again, any other random person, just unmute yourself and then answer it. Hello guys, don't leave me hanging. Yeah, hello. Exactly. All right. So then the next one, where does the problem present itself? So this can be a little tricky, right? Where does the problem present itself? So this one is, in what space does it present itself? Is it in the physical space or is it in the digital space? So let me cite an example. This is the tricky bit. Let me cite an example, right? If I'm using Google Maps, and then the map tells me to like the map is giving me directions. It's giving me directions digitally, right? But I need to do the direction that was given to me digitally. I need to do that physically. So I need to walk to the junction the map tells me to walk to, and then take the left turn. So do you understand where this is happening? Where is the problem? So you need to identify where the digital can end and where the physical can end, because you need to understand that the two worlds need to come together. Right. So where is this happening? So at what point is this happening? So where this can work in our problem statements would be would Kofi be paid via the application? Would Kofi be paid via the bank? would Kofi be paid physically? You see where that the problem presents itself, where that is happening. Like they are owing him. Are they owing him over the app? Are they owing him over physically? Right. So where is the problem presenting itself? Our problem statement does not clearly define that. But we get, yeah, please go ahead. We are not asking the 5 whys. The 5 whys is a different thing. We are asking the 5 W's. Oh, actually, it's supposed to be the 4 W's, but it's called the 5 W's because there's supposed to be one called when. But in the product settings, when does not matter because we are not dealing with the time constraint. Yeah. All right, no problem. The user characteristics should be aligned with the user needs. So like, yeah, okay. So let me cite an example. If let me cite an example. Okay, let's use the same principle, the same one from here. If Kofi was not a businessman, would people owe him? Hello? Yeah, so there's a chance that people would owe Kofi if he's not a businessman because a friend can borrow money to people, right? Yeah, but does the problem solve the how you call it? Does it solve how you call it? Does it solve the problem for the person who is not a businessman? Does it solve the problem? Yes, exactly. It can solve. Yeah. So that is the problem statement being broad enough. It's broad enough that it can accept for different types of users. So we just use the how you call it? We just give the characteristic of Kofi to make how you call it? To make the problem human centered. Right. So under normal circumstance, if we were to go deep into it, you'd realize you're creating personas. And so when you're creating personas, you realize you have different personas. And then each persona can slightly alter the problem statement based on their user's characteristic. But the user need and then the insight about them is almost always the same. So if we change the first bit over here, so if maybe say we use something like Kwejo is a wealthy rich kid or something who needs a system to track and remind him of, so that wouldn't be clients but friends or it could be clients or friends of impending debt deadlines because friends sometimes forget to make payments on time. You see, it perfectly works for it. So I think your question was, does the user characteristic, does it always have to tie with the user need? Right. Okay, so I guess the answer is no, because it does not always have to tie with it. Am I clear on that? Yeah, right. So then the last bit is why does it matter? So what value would the solution bring to the user? And so that is this over here right now. It will make the people pay their debts on time, right? So do we agree that the problem statement serves its purpose? Hello guys. Hello. Can you hear me? All right, great. So that is about it for today. So since we completed earlier, I want us to try an exercise where we try to solve get some different problem statements for different use cases. So I'd like anybody from the community to give us a problem that they've identified so that we can write a problem statement about it, basically using the problem statement formula that we have over here. So can someone please can someone give us a problem that they've identified in their community or something. So we create a problem statement, right? Or better still, let's try to find UX design problems. So let me just Google UX design. I think that would be best. Problems. Kwejo, yeah, UX challenges. Practice. Kwejo, what's the name of the platform where you get the UX design problems? Come again. Alright, sure thing. Come again. Like so. CROOW. Crown. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. I haven't seen this one before. I need to sign up. Come again. On the left side, I can see what explore or. Okay. What's the problem? What is the problem? Okay. When I give my kids chores, I want to be able to track the task given to them so I can reward them based on performance. Okay. All right. So let's take this problem statement. Let's take this problem, right, and bring it in here. All right. So when I give my kids okay, so Ibrahim, I'm going to mute you because there's background noise. All right. So when I give my kids chores, I want to be able to track the task given to them so I can reward them based on performance. All right. So what we first of all we want to make based on like this principle over here. I find that this is one of the easiest way to actually write a problem statement. Or better still, we can just use the formula over here, and then the formula basically captures it. What they're trying to solve, the problem they're trying, how you call it? The problem they're trying to solve, and then why. So it's just the same thing, it's just different. So what did I put that? Okay, here. So when I give my kids chores, I want to be able to track the task given to them so I can reward them based on performance. So let's personalize it, right? So let's just come here and be like, let's a name. So let's say a name, Ibrahim, right? Let's make this bold. So Ibrahim, right? Who is Ibrahim? So Ibrahim is a father of 3, right? So this is a user characteristic. Ibrahim is a father of 3 who needs a means. Okay. Who needs a means? What's the thing? Who needs a means to track task? Who needs a means to track task given? Who wants to be able to? Okay. Who needs a means to track task completion? Means to track task. I'm trying to make this make sense. I want to be able to track the task given to them. so I can reward them based on their performance. Who needs a means to track tasks given to his children? To his children. Let me reduce the size of this thing. Given to his children because he wants to reward them based on their performance. So like using the design thinking, the problem statement formula, you realize you are able to break down the problem statements. Like this is a random problem. I haven't thought of it extensively. Maybe if you think about it quite extensively, it might change to something that's more concise because we haven't given it so much thought. But we've been able to convert this into something that is so actionable. So Ibrahim is a father of 3 who needs a means to track tasks given to his children because he wants to reward them based on their performances. So if say you were a programmer and then you joined the team, right? So say we are developing the software and then you're a programmer and you join the team and then we present you with this problem statement, would you not be able to what's the right term? Would you not be able to understand the problem they are trying to solve as quickly as possible, and then would it not point you in the right direction as to the problem you are trying to solve? If you feel like that is not the case, please draw my attention to it. Alright, so nobody's saying anything. That means it actually serves the purpose, and so that is how to write problem statement. That is how to define the problem in a way that makes the problem that you're trying to solve actionable, and then covers the grounds for solving the problem that you're trying covers the ground for the problem that you're trying to solve. So I think we've covered it for today. Going from next week, we would jump into the ideation phase for this problem, for the problem statement that we've identified for how you call it? Where is it? Kofi. Kofi's a small business owner, and we need a system to track and remind clients of impending deadlines because clients sometimes forget to make payments. So for next week's session, we'll talk about how to ideate the problems and the problem statement, and then get different ideas and then select the one that actually solves the problem in the best possible way. So I'd like to open the floor for any questions, and then so we can end today's session quite early. So please, if you have any questions, please keep them coming. And then let me share a link to this document so you can get access to it. There are references, so so I'm dropping a link to the slides. I'm realizing Mr. Vamp is asking, for beginners, should this be the standard we can follow? Yes. So this is actually the problem statement is actually based on research from Career Foundry, the Google UX design course, and then interaction design. What's the name of the platform? Forgetting the name of the platform. But there are reference links in there, so you can actually view it. You can get access to the presentation I did. You can get access to the presentation. We have a YouTube channel as well. We just created a YouTube channel. Let me try to get a link to that. So in case you miss anything, you could just so it's quite new. We just created it last week, and so I'm dropping a link to it. So in case maybe you miss a session, you could just watch and join again. So are there any questions, please? Hello? Yes, please go ahead. You're just giving what? Mm-hmm. Um. Okay. So the thing about you can't solve a problem without you cannot solve the problem if you don't know the problem. Like it's impossible. And so if they said like for we need a problem for this and that and that, you just you just take the this and that that they talked about. So like for example, we just went to the Crown platform, right? Wow, there's a lot of background noise. So you just go to the platform that you see the way we entered the platform. We took the problem from there and then we wrote a problem statement about it for whatever condition that they gave you, that we need a product built for that and that and that. Once you can convert, you need to convert that and that and that into a problem statement to help yourself, point you in the right direction. So if it's say Airbnb, if you have to write an Airbnb problem statement for Airbnb, you could be like maybe let's find another name. Let me see. Okay, so Futri. I hope I'm mentioning the name correctly. So Futri is maybe as a product designer who love to travel. So again, let's go back to the problem statement. The characteristics, right? So we are assuming Airbnb is yet to be built, and we are creating a problem statement for Airbnb. So Futri is a let's assume is a UX designer or a product designer who needs an application to book accommodation for places she's about to travel to, because she knows nobody over there and she wants her accommodation settled before she gets into the country. That could be Airbnb's problem statement, because it captures everything that Airbnb is basically. So what your problem statement is like that one statement that explains exactly what your product is. So for any product, so even for Google like this, you can write a problem statement for Google. Well, Google is a platform, so you can just you can human center the process and be like, okay, maybe James is a student who needs an application, or who needs a means of finding information quickly because they need to do their assignments quickly on time. And so that's problem statement. I'm not giving it too much thought. I'm just spitballing it based on the problem statement. We're just spitballing based on the formula of like how to actually write good problem statements. So you see, once you've been able to write that, then the problem you're trying to solve becomes so like clear to you as to, okay, so if you go through 200 processes, this is where you want to end, this is where you want to end at. Like that is what your problem statement basically, it shows you where your problem is starting and where it's ending. So that is what it mentions over here, that the problem statement identifies the gap between the current state, that is the problem, and the desired state, that is the goal. So you see, for every problem statement, it talks about where the beginning is and where the end is, what is causing the problem and what the solution looks like. Not what the solution is, what it looks like. All right. So are there any other questions, please? Hello. All right. So if there are no other questions, we've done about 50 minutes. I guess we would like to end it over here. So we'll continue from next week. So I'll create the next session on ADP list. If you want, we have a WhatsApp group where you can join. Let me drop the link to the WhatsApp group. So if you're not in the WhatsApp group, you can join that. So you can get updates to you can get how you call it, like you can get to speak to members of the community. Where's the WhatsApp group? Unless I open WhatsApp. Can someone from the WhatsApp group drop the link? I don't have it open on my laptop. Okay. Okay, let me try to open it. Yeah, don't worry. I'll do it myself. I'm trying to get the link to the. All right. Copy link. All right. Yeah. Somebody already pasted it. All right. So if there are no other questions, let's end the session and then continue from again next week. All right. So we'll continue the session the same. I'll create a session for next week, and then you can join. All right. So if there are no other questions, bye bye. Thanks for having me. You're welcome.